I never thought the moment I handed my daughter that check would be the beginning of my worst nightmare. But when I stood in that courtroom 3 years later, watching her face turn pale as my accountant presented document after document proving every dollar came from me, I finally understood that sometimes the people you love most are the ones who'll hurt you deepest. Before I tell you what my daughter did next, please like this video. It gives me strength to keep speaking. If you've ever been hurt by someone you loved, whisper, subscribe. Your support feels like the only honesty left in my life. And please comment your name and where you're watching from. I want to remember the people who stand with me when even my own child won't. Let me start from the beginning. My name is Margaret Chen, and I'm 63 years old now. 3 years ago, I was a different woman. Softer, more trusting, the kind of mother who believed that unconditional love meant giving everything and asking for nothing in return. I learned the hard way that some people see unconditional love as unlimited weakness. I spent 32 years building my life with my husband, David. We started with nothing. 2 kids fresh out of college with big dreams and empty pockets. David worked construction while I did bookkeeping from home. And slowly, painfully slowly, we built something. We bought rental properties one at a time, fixed them up ourselves, and reinvested every penny. By the time David died of a heart attack at 59, we owned 17 properties and had a healthy investment portfolio. He left me comfortable, secure, and absolutely heartbroken. Our daughter, Monica, was 28 when David died. She was always his princess, his little girl who could do no wrong. And I suppose she was mine too. Monica graduated with a business degree but had bounced between jobs for years, never quite finding her footing. She had big ideas, grand plans, but nothing ever materialized. Then she met Ryan. Ryan swept into our lives like a summer storm, loud, flashy, impossible to ignore. He worked in tech sales, or so he said, though I never quite understood what that meant. He drove a leased BMW, wore expensive watches, and talked endlessly about disruption and market opportunities. Monica was mesmerized. They got engaged after 6 months, married after a year, and suddenly my daughter's big dreams had a voice that wouldn't stop talking. I should have seen the warning signs. I should have noticed how Ryan always ordered the most expensive wine when I took them to dinner, then somehow never had his wallet when the check came. I should have questioned why someone so successful always seemed to need small loans, 1,000 here, 2,000 there, always with elaborate explanations about timing and cash flow. But I was lonely in that big house David and I had built together, and having Monica visit more often felt like a gift, even if Ryan always came with her. The business idea came up about a year after their wedding. Monica and Ryan arrived at my house on a Sunday afternoon in March. I remember because the cherry tree in my front yard had just started blooming, David's favorite time of year. We sat in my kitchen, the same kitchen where I made thousands of meals for my family, and Monica spread papers across my table with an excitement I hadn't seen in her eyes since she was a little girl. "Mom," she said, her whole face glowing, "we found it, the perfect business opportunity. Ryan has connections in the organic beauty industry, and we want to start a skincare line. Sustainable, ethical, affordable luxury. The market research shows..." Ryan cut in, as he always did, launching into a presentation he'd clearly rehearsed. He talked about market gaps, consumer trends, projected revenues. He made it sound like printing money. According to him, they just needed initial capital for product development, branding, and the first production run. $200,000. I felt my stomach drop. That was a lot of money, even for me. But when I looked at Monica, I saw David in her eyes, that same hopeful, determined look he'd had when we bought our first rental property. "Mom," she said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand, "this is my chance, our chance, to build something real, something I can be proud of, like you and Dad did. How could I say no to that? How could I deny my daughter this same opportunity David and I had given ourselves? I didn't say yes right away. I told them I needed to think about it, to review my finances. That night, I sat in David's study. I still called it that, even though he'd been gone for 3 years, and looked at our accounts. The money was there. I could afford it, without jeopardizing my own security. And Monica was my daughter, my only child. If I couldn't help her, what was all that money for? I called my accountant the next morning. Bernard had handled David's and my finances for 15 years. He was meticulous, cautious, exactly the kind of person you want managing your money. When I explained what I wanted to do, the silence on the phone stretched so long I thought we'd been disconnected.
"Margaret," he finally said, "I'm going to speak to you as a friend, not just your accountant. Are you sure about this? That's a significant sum to invest in an unproven business run by people with no track record." "She's my daughter, Bernard." "I know. That's what worries me. If you're going to do this, at least do it properly. Set it up as a loan with a clear repayment structure, or take an equity stake in the business. Protect yourself." His words were wise, but I didn't want to hear them. I didn't want to treat my daughter like a risky business proposition. "I'll think about it," I told him, knowing I wouldn't. Looking back, I can see my mistakes so clearly it makes me physically ill. But at the time, all I could see was Monica's hopeful face and David's voice in my head saying, "Family takes care of family." I invited Monica and Ryan back the following weekend. This time, I did the presentation. I'd prepared papers, not a loan agreement, not an equity stake, but a gift with strings. I would give them the $200,000, but I wanted quarterly reports on how it was being used. I wanted transparency. I wanted to be included, not as an investor demanding returns, but as a mother who cared about her daughter's dream. Monica cried when I told her. She actually cried, hugged me so tight I could barely breathe, and told me I was the best mother in the world. Ryan shook my hand firmly, looked me right in the eye, and said, "Margaret, you won't regret this. We're going to make you so proud." Proud. That word haunts me now. I wrote the check that day, $200,000, made out to Luminescence Beauty LLC, the company name Monica had already chosen. They'd registered the business the week before, she told me excitedly, so confident I would help them. Ryan was listed as CEO, Monica as creative director. I asked why Ryan was CEO when it was Monica's idea, and she laughed it off. "Ryan has the business experience, Mom. I'm the creative vision. We each play to our strengths." The first few months were exciting, I won't lie. Monica sent me photos of product samples, packaging designs, website mock-ups. She invited me to their office, a small rented space in a strip mall, and showed me everything with such pride. I felt useful, needed, included. Ryan was always there too, of course, always ready with impressive-sounding updates about production partners and distribution channels. They sent me the quarterly reports I'd asked for, though they were vague. Line items like product development, $47,000, and marketing and branding, $53,000, without much detail. When I asked questions, Ryan would launch into long explanations filled with business jargon that left me more confused than informed. Monica would jump in, her hand on my arm, saying, "Mom, you just have to trust us. This is how businesses work. You and Dad did construction and real estate. This is different." So I trusted them. I trusted my daughter. The business launched 8 months after I gave them the money. There was a party, a launch event at a trendy downtown venue that must have cost a fortune. Monica looked beautiful in a designer dress I'd never seen before, glowing as she gave a speech about her vision for ethical, sustainable beauty. Ryan stood beside her, his hand on the small of her back, accepting congratulations like he'd built something himself. I was there, of course, sitting at a table near the back. Monica had introduced me to a few people. "This is my mom, Margaret." But I noticed something strange. No one seemed to know about my involvement. When someone asked how they'd funded such an impressive launch, Ryan jumped in with a smooth, "Well, we pulled together resources, called in some favors, and had some capital from previous ventures. It's amazing what you can accomplish with the right connections and hard work." My capital, I thought, but didn't say. My $200,000. But I pushed the thought away. It didn't matter who got the credit, did it? What mattered was that Monica was happy, successful, living her dream. The business grew faster than anyone expected. Monica's skincare line hit some kind of sweet spot in the market. Affordable enough for regular people, but packaged and marketed like luxury goods. Within 6 months, they were in 3 regional boutique chains. Within a year, they'd expanded nationally. I watched from the sidelines, seeing occasional photos on social media, hearing updates when Monica remembered to call. The calls became less frequent. When we did talk, Monica seemed rushed, distracted. "Sorry, Mom, I'm swamped. The business is exploding. It's incredible, but exhausting." She stopped sending the quarterly reports. When I mentioned it, she said, "Oh, Mom, we're way past that now. We have real accountants, proper bookkeeping. You don't need to worry about that stuff anymore." But I did worry. Not about the money, I'd accepted that as a gift, but about the distance growing between us. Monica came to Sunday dinners less often, always with excuses about work obligations or events. When she did come, Ryan dominated the conversation, talking endlessly about their success while Monica checked her phone. Then came the magazine article. That's when everything changed. It was a business profile in a glossy regional magazine, 30 Under 30, Young Entrepreneurs Reshaping Our City. Monica and Ryan's photo took up half a page, both of them looking polished and successful. I bought 3 copies, so proud I could barely stand it. My daughter, featured as a successful entrepreneur. Then I read the article. Ryan Martinez, 34, CEO of Luminescence Beauty, built his company from the ground up with an initial investment of his own money and strategic business acumen. "I saw a gap in the market," Martinez explains, "and I had the vision and resources to fill it." His wife, Monica Chen Martinez, 31, serves as creative director, bringing her artistic eye to the brand's aesthetic. Together, they've grown Luminescence from a startup to a multi-million-dollar company in just under 2 years. I read it 3 times, my hands shaking more with each pass. His money, his vision, his resources. Monica was mentioned almost as an afterthought, as the artistic wife supporting her husband's business vision. And me? I didn't exist at all. I called Monica immediately. She didn't answer. I called again an hour later, then again that evening. She finally called back the next day, her tone breezy and unconcerned. "Sorry, Mom, crazy busy. What's up?" "The magazine article," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Monica, it says Ryan funded the business with his own money." "Oh, well, you know how these articles are. They simplify everything. It's not really a big deal." "Not a big deal? Monica, I gave you $200,000. "It was a gift, Mom. You said so yourself. You gave it to us, to the business. Ryan is the CEO, so when reporters ask about funding, he explains it. It's not like he's lying. That money became part of the business capital." "But he's saying it was his money." "Mom, I really can't do this right now. I have a meeting in 5 minutes. Can we talk about this later?" She didn't wait for my answer before hanging up. I sat, holding the phone, feeling something I'd never felt before when it came to my daughter, a cold, creeping sense of betrayal. But I told myself I was overreacting, being sensitive. It was just a magazine article. What did it matter who got credit as long as Monica was happy? Except Monica didn't seem happy anymore. Over the next several months, the distance between us grew into a chasm. She stopped coming to Sunday dinners entirely. When I called, she rarely answered, and when she did, conversations were brief and surface level. I sent texts asking how she was doing, if everything was okay. She'd respond with thumbs up emojis or, "All good, just busy." Then the social media posts started. Monica had always been active online,
but now her feed became a curated highlight reel of her glamorous life. Photos of her and Ryan at charity galas, industry events, expensive restaurants, and every caption, every interview clip she shared told the same story. Ryan, the brilliant entrepreneur who'd built Luminescence Beauty. Ryan, the visionary who took a risk and succeeded. Monica, the supportive creative partner who'd helped bring his vision to life. My money. My $200,000 had built that company, and I'd been erased from the story entirely. I tried to talk to her about it once more, when she finally agreed to meet me for coffee. We sat in a busy cafe, and I could see her checking her watch before we'd even ordered. "Monica, I'm concerned. I feel like you've been pulling away, and I can't help but notice that in all these articles and posts, my contribution to Luminescence Beauty is never mentioned." She sighed, that exasperated sigh she'd perfected as a teenager. "Mom, not this again. Look, in the business world, this is how things work. People invest in companies all the time and don't get public credit. It's about building the brand, and the brand is Ryan and me. Bringing up that you gave us money would make it sound like we didn't earn our success. But you didn't earn that initial capital. I gave it to you. It was a gift." Her voice rose slightly and she glanced around to see if anyone was listening. "You gave it to us freely. You can't give someone a gift and then hold it over their head forever."
I'm not trying to hold it over your head. I just want to be acknowledged. I want to feel like I'm still part of your life. You are part of my life, Mom. You're my mother, but you're not part of my business. There's a difference. She stood up, leaving her untouched latte on the table. "I have to go. I have a meeting." I sat there, long after she left, feeling tears burn behind my eyes, but refusing to let them fall in public. When had my daughter become someone I didn't recognize? The final straw came 6 months later at Monica and Ryan's 3rd wedding anniversary party. I almost didn't go. Monica had invited me via text, no phone call, no personal touch, and I debated making an excuse. But she was still my daughter, and some stubborn part of me hoped we could repair what was breaking between us. The party was at their house, a beautiful new build in an expensive suburb that they'd bought 8 months earlier. I'd seen photos online, but hadn't been invited to visit. When I arrived, I was struck by how enormous it was. 4,000 square feet at least, with a pool and immaculate landscaping. This was what my money had helped buy, I thought, then immediately felt guilty for thinking it. The party was catered, elegant, filled with people I didn't know. Monica air-kissed my cheek when I arrived, told me I looked nice, then disappeared into the crowd. I stood alone with a glass of wine, watching my daughter laugh and network with her new friends, feeling like a ghost in her life. Then Ryan called for everyone's attention. He stood on the raised stone patio, Monica beside him, both of them holding champagne flutes. "Thank you all for celebrating with us tonight," he began, his voice carrying easily over the crowd. 3 years ago, I married the most beautiful, talented woman I had ever met. And in that same period, we built something incredible together, Luminescence Beauty. The crowd applauded. I smiled, waiting for him to mention me, to acknowledge where their seed money had come from. He didn't. When Monica and I started this journey, we had nothing but a vision and determination. I liquidated my savings, called in every favor I had, and poured everything into making this dream real. People told me I was crazy to invest so much in an untested concept, but I believed in Monica's creative genius and my own business instincts. My blood ran cold. Liquidated his savings? He had no savings. He had a leased BMW and mounting credit card debt. I knew it because Monica had mentioned it once, early in their relationship, laughing about how bad Ryan was with money. Luminescence hit $3 million in revenue this year, Ryan continued, and the crowd gasped appreciatively.
$3 million in less than 3 years. And we did it ourselves, from the ground up, with nothing but hard work and smart decisions. $3 million? The company I'd funded was now worth $3 million? And Ryan was standing there claiming he'd done it himself? Monica was smiling beside him, nodding along, not correcting him, not saying a word about where that initial $200,000 had really come from. She looked proud, happy, completely complicit in this lie. "So please, raise your glasses," Ryan said, pulling Monica close. "To the two of us, to our partnership, and to many more years of success we've earned through our own merit and hard work. To Ryan and Monica," the crowd chorused. I didn't raise my glass. I couldn't. I stood there, frozen, as the truth crashed over me like a wave. This wasn't a misunderstanding or a simplification for media purposes. This was a deliberate rewriting of history. They were taking credit for everything I'd made possible. And Monica, my daughter, who I'd loved and supported and given everything to, was letting it happen. I left without saying goodbye. No one noticed. I drove home in a fog, barely seeing the road. When I got to my house, I sat in David's study and cried for the first time since his funeral. I cried for the daughter I thought I had, for the relationship I believed we shared, for the trust I'd given so freely and that had been betrayed so completely. Then I stopped crying and got angry. David used to say that I was too soft, too willing to let people take advantage of my kindness. He loved that about me, he said, but he also worried that someday someone would hurt me because of it. I'd never imagined that someone would be our daughter. But I wasn't just soft. David had also taught me to be smart, to document everything, to protect myself. And I had documentation. I had the original check. I had the transfer records. I had the emails where Monica and Ryan had outlined their business plan and asked for my help. The next morning, I called Bernard. I said, "I need to know something. If I gave money to someone who promised to use it for a specific purpose and they're now claiming it came from somewhere else, do I have any recourse?" Bernard was quiet for a moment. "Tell me what happened, Margaret."
So I did. I told him everything. The gift, the quarterly reports that stopped coming, the media coverage that erased me, and finally, Ryan's speech at the anniversary party. Bernard listened without interrupting, and when I finished, I heard him sigh. "I'm sorry, Margaret. I really am. But also, I want you to know you're not crazy for being upset. What they're doing is morally wrong, even if it might not be legally actionable. The question is, what do you want to happen here?" "I want my daughter to acknowledge the truth. I want credit for what I made possible." "And if she won't?" I hadn't thought that far ahead. But as Bernard asked the question, something crystallized in my mind. "Then I want proof. I want documentation that proves my version of events so that at least I know I'm not going crazy. And I want to understand exactly what that $200,000 became." "I can help with that," Bernard said. "Luminescence Beauty is an LLC, which means certain financial information is accessible. And you have a paper trail, the check, the emails. Let me do some research and pull together a proper accounting. Give me a week." That week was the longest of my life. I went through my daily routines like a zombie, barely eating, sleeping in restless fits. I kept picking up my phone to call Monica, then putting it down. What would I say? How could I repair something that felt so fundamentally broken? On day 5, Monica called me. I almost didn't answer, but old habits die hard. "Mom, hi. Look, Ryan and I noticed you left the party early. Is everything okay?"
The audacity of the question made me laugh, a sharp, bitter sound that felt foreign in my throat. Is everything okay? Monica, did you really just ask me that? I don't understand why you're upset. You've been acting weird for months. I'm acting weird? Monica, your husband stood in front of 100 people and claimed he funded Luminescence with his own money. My $200,000 apparently never existed. Oh my God, Mom, is that what this is about? You're still hung up on that? That money was years ago. The business has grown so far beyond that initial investment. Ryan was talking about our journey, our story. Your story? Your story that erases me completely? Why do you need credit, Mom? Why does it matter so much to you? You gave us a gift. You said yourself it wasn't an investment. So why are you suddenly demanding recognition? Because I'm your mother. Because that gift represented my trust, my belief in you, my love. And you've taken all of that and acted like it never happened. You've rewritten history to make yourselves look better, and you didn't even have the decency to be honest with me about it. You know what, Mom? I think you're jealous. I think you can't handle that we succeeded, that we built something impressive. You want to take credit for our hard work. Your hard work? Monica, where did that hard work begin? Who made it possible? I can't do this right now. I need to go. And she hung up. I stared at the phone in disbelief. My daughter had just accused me of being jealous, of trying to steal credit for her success, when all I'd done was give her everything she needed to succeed in the first place. 2 days later, Bernard called. Margaret, I have the information you wanted. Can you come to my office? His office was a small, neat space that smelled like coffee and paper. Bernard spread documents across his desk. Bank statements, business filings, transfer records. Here's what I found, he said. Your check for $200,000 was deposited into Luminescence Beauty's business account on March 15th, 3 years ago. That money was used exactly as they said it would be. Product development, initial production runs, branding, website development, and operating capital. Okay, I said slowly. So they did use it for the business. Yes, but here's what's interesting. Bernard pulled out another set of documents. Ryan Martinez contributed exactly $0 to Luminescence Beauty LLC. No capital investment, no loans to the company, nothing. According to these filings, which are public record, the only initial capital came from what's listed as private investment. That's your $200,000. After that, the business was self-sustaining from revenue. I felt my pulse quicken. So when Ryan says he liquidated his savings, he's lying, completely and verifiably lying. He put no personal money into this business. Everything came from you, and then from the business's own profits. Can you prove that? Bernard smiled grimly. Margaret, I can prove that beyond any shadow of doubt. I have the original business registration documents, the bank records, the transfer records, everything. If this ever became a legal matter, your contribution is thoroughly documented. Why would they lie so blatantly when the records are public?
Because most people don't look at LLC filings. Most people just believe what they're told. Ryan is betting that no one will fact-check his story. Bernard leaned forward. The question is, what do you want to do with this information? I thought about that for a long moment. The old Margaret would have just kept this information to herself, would have let it go, would have prioritized family peace over personal vindication. But I wasn't the old Margaret anymore. I want to talk to Monica one more time. I want to give her a chance to tell the truth. And if she won't, then I want to make sure the truth comes out. Bernard nodded. I'll prepare a complete financial report, Everything documented and notarized. If you need it, it'll be ready. I invited Monica to lunch at a nice restaurant, neutral territory. She agreed, though she sounded annoyed about taking time from work. When she arrived, she was dressed in an expensive suit I'd never seen, carrying a designer handbag that probably cost more than I spent on groceries in 6 months. We ordered, made uncomfortable small talk, and then I took a deep breath. Monica, I need to talk to you about luminescence, about the money I gave you. She put down her fork with a heavy sigh. Here we go again. No, listen, please. I kept my voice calm, measured. I've been doing some research. I know exactly what my money was used for, and I know exactly how much Ryan contributed to the business, which is to say, nothing. He contributed nothing, Monica. So when he stands up and claims he liquidated his savings to start the company, he's lying, and you know he's lying. Monica's face flushed. Mom, you don't understand how business works. Don't patronize me. I understand exactly how business works. My father and I built 17 properties from nothing. I know what it means to invest, to take risks, to build something. What I don't understand is why my own daughter is helping her husband lie about it. It's not lying, it's marketing, it's storytelling. In business, you have to craft a narrative that sells. And your narrative requires erasing me? Oh my God, why are you making this about you? The business is successful. Isn't that enough? Why do you need everyone to know about the money you gave us? Because it's the truth. Because when Ryan stands up and takes credit for something he didn't do, and you stand beside him saying nothing, you're both lying. And I deserve better than that from my own daughter. Monica threw her napkin on the table. You want to know the truth, Mom? Fine. Yes, you gave us money. Yes, that money helped start the business. But that business succeeded because of Ryan's leadership and my creativity. You wrote a check. That's all you did. You didn't build the brand. You didn't develop the products. You didn't work 18-hour days to make it succeed. We did. I never said I built it. I just want to be acknowledged for making it possible. Why? So you can feel important? So you can brag to your friends that your successful daughter only succeeded because of you? The words hit me like a physical blow. Is that really what you think of me? I think you need to let this go. I think you need to be happy for me instead of trying to diminish my accomplishments. That money was a gift 3 years ago. You don't get to use it as leverage forever. I'm not trying to use it as leverage. I'm trying to have an honest relationship with my daughter. Well, maybe that's not possible right now. Maybe you need to take a step back and give me some space. She walked out, leaving me sitting there alone, my heart hammering in my chest. Other diners were staring, but I didn't care. My daughter had just told me to give her space. My daughter, who I carried for 9 months, raised for 28 years, and given $200,000 to, had just essentially told me to leave me alone. I paid the check in a daze and drove home. When I got there, I sat in my car in the driveway for a long time, my hands gripping the steering wheel, trying to breathe through the pain in my chest. Then I called Bernard. Prepare that report, I said. I want everything documented, notarized, and ready to go. What are you going to do with it? I don't know yet. But I'm done being erased. Over the next few weeks, I started noticing things I'd missed before. Monica and Ryan had bought that expensive house, were driving luxury cars, were posting about vacations to Europe and the Caribbean, all funded by a business that had started with my money. Meanwhile, I lived modestly in the house David and I had built, still careful with my spending despite having comfortable means. I wasn't jealous of their success. I genuinely wasn't. But I was angry at the injustice of it all. They were living a life my money had helped make possible, and they were telling everyone they'd done it alone. Then came the interview that broke something in me permanently.
Monica was featured on a local podcast about successful female entrepreneurs. The host,
A cheerful woman who clearly hadn't done much research asked the question I'd been waiting to hear someone ask. "So, Monica, how did you and your husband fund luminescence in those early days?" I was listening in my car, having pulled over on the side of the road. I held my breath. "It was definitely a leap of faith," Monica said, her voice warm and confident. "Ryan had been very successful in tech sales, and he'd saved quite a bit. When we decided to start Luminescence, he basically bet everything on this vision. It was scary, honestly, but his belief in us made it possible. I'll forever be grateful that I have a husband willing to take those kinds of risks." Not a single mention of me. Not even a vague reference to family support or help from loved ones. Just a complete fabrication about Ryan's non-existent savings and a glowing tribute to his courage. I sat in that car and felt something inside me snap. Not break, snap, like a bone that's been bent too far. I was done being understanding. I was done being patient. I was done letting them erase me from the story while I smiled and said nothing. I called Bernard. "That report, is it ready?" "Yes. Complete and notarized." "Good. I want copies. Multiple copies. And I want to know my options." Bernard was quiet for a moment. "Options for what, Margaret?" "For making sure the truth comes out. I'm not asking for my money back. I'm not trying to hurt Monica or destroy her business. But I'm not going to be erased anymore. What can I do?" We met the next day. Bernard had prepared a comprehensive file, a complete accounting of my contribution, documentation of Ryan's zero contribution, a timeline of the business's growth, everything. It was thorough, damning, and irrefutable. "Your options are limited," Bernard said carefully. "You gave the money as a gift, not a loan, so you have no legal claim to repayment. The business is doing well, so there's no fraud in how the money was used, but," he paused, "if they're making false claims publicly that damage your reputation or misrepresent material facts, you could send a cease and desist letter. You could also simply make the information public yourself. Send this report to the journalists who've covered them, for instance." That feels vindictive. Does it? Or does it feel like setting the record straight? I thought about that. Was I being vindictive? Was I being one of those people who gives a gift and then tries to control how the recipient lives their life forever? But no, this wasn't about control. This was about truth. They were actively lying, repeatedly and publicly, and using those lies to build an image of themselves that was fundamentally false. And I had stayed silent because I'd been trying to preserve our relationship, not realizing that the relationship was already dead. I called Bernard. "That report, is it ready?" "Yes." "I'm going to talk to her one more time. Face to face, no public place where she can walk away. I'm going to show her this documentation and give her a choice. Either tell the truth yourself, or I'll make sure the truth comes out anyway." Bernard looked worried. "Margaret, are you sure? Once you do this, there's no going back. Your relationship with Monica might be damaged beyond repair." "Bernard, I think it already is." I texted Monica asking her to come to my house. She didn't respond for 2 days, then finally sent a curt message. "Fine, Saturday afternoon, I can give you an hour." She arrived 10 minutes late, still in her business clothes, clearly coming from work on a Saturday. She walked into my living room like she was doing me a favor, checking her phone even as she sat down on my couch. "Okay, Mom, I'm here. What's so important that it couldn't wait?" I set the thick folder on the coffee table between us. I had my accountant prepare this. It's a complete financial history of Luminescence Beauty, where the money came from, how it was used, who contributed what. Monica glanced at the folder but didn't touch it. "Why?" "Because I want you to see in black and white exactly what happened. I want you to see that everything Ryan has been saying publicly is a lie, and that you've been complicit in that lie." "Oh, good. We're back to this again?" "Monica, please, just look at it." With obvious reluctance, she opened the folder. I watched her face as she scanned the first few pages. The deposit records, the business registration, the accounting of Ryan's contributions, or lack thereof.
Her expression shifted from annoyed to uncomfortable to defensive. Okay, so this just shows what we already know. You gave us money. We used it to start the business. I've never denied that in private, but you deny it in public. You and Ryan both. You've told reporters, podcast hosts, party guests, and anyone who will listen that Ryan funded the business himself. You've built your entire brand narrative around this self-made success story, and it's a lie. It's not a lie, it's simplification. Stop saying that. It is a lie. Ryan contributed $0 to this business, and you know it. Monica's eyes widened. I never shouted. In her entire life, I don't think I'd ever raised my voice at her like that. But something had shifted in me. I wasn't going to be quiet and accommodating anymore.
You are my daughter, and I love you. I will always love you. But I won't allow you to treat me like I'm stupid or invisible. I gave you $200,000 that made your business possible, and you spent 3 years pretending that never happened? And I'm done with it. Monica stood up, her face flushed. What do you want from me, Mom? Do you want me to take out an ad in the paper? Do you want me to post on social media that my mommy gave me money? What exactly would make you happy? I want you to stop lying. That's all. When people ask how you funded the business, tell them the truth. Say you had help from family. Say your mother believed in you and provided startup capital. I'm not asking you to throw a parade in my honor. I'm asking for basic honesty. And if I don't? The question hung in the air between us. This was the moment. This was where I had to decide if I was serious or if this was all just noise. Then I'll make sure the truth comes out anyway. Monica laughed, a harsh sound. Are you threatening me? I'm telling you the consequences. I have documentation, Monica, irrefutable documentation of every dollar, every claim, every lie. And if you won't tell the truth, I will. I'll send this report to every journalist who's covered your business. I'll post it on social media. I'll make sure anyone who searches your name finds the real story. You wouldn't dare. Try me. We stared at each other. And for the first time in my life, I saw something in my daughter's eyes that looked like fear. But it was quickly replaced by anger. You're really going to do this? You're going to try to destroy everything I've built because your ego is hurt? Your business is built on a foundation I provided. I'm not trying to destroy it. I'm trying to stop you from erasing me. No, you're trying to punish me because I'm successful. You're trying to make this about you when it should be about my accomplishments. Your accomplishments were made possible by my generosity. A generosity you're now using as a weapon. Monica grabbed her purse, her hand shaking. You know what, Mom? Do whatever you want. Post your little report. Call the journalists. Tell everyone you gave me money. See if I care. Monica, please. Please don't leave like this. I don't want to fight with you. I just want honesty. I just want to be treated like I matter. You do matter. You're my mother. But you're not my business partner, and you're not entitled to credit for my success. She walked toward the door, then turned back. And if you try to sabotage what Ryan and I have built, I'll make sure you regret it. We have lawyers, Mom, real lawyers. Don't think we won't use them. The door slammed behind me, and I stood there in my empty living room, my heart pounding so hard I thought I might be sick. My daughter had just threatened me. My daughter, who I'd loved more than my own life, had just threatened to sue me for telling the truth. I sank onto the couch, Bernard's report still spread across the coffee table, and I let myself cry. I cried for the relationship that was broken, for the daughter I'd lost somewhere along the way, for the trust that had been so completely betrayed. But even through the tears, I knew what I had to do. The next morning, I started making calls. I contacted the reporter who'd written the 30 Under 30 article. I reached out to the podcast host who'd interviewed Monica. I found email addresses for the business journalists who'd covered Luminescence's growth. To each of them, I sent a brief, professional message. I'm writing to provide accurate information about the founding of Luminescence Beauty. Recent media coverage has contained significant inaccuracies regarding the source of the company's initial capital. I'm the mother of creative director Monica Chin Martinez, and I provided the complete initial funding for the business. I have comprehensive documentation to support this, prepared by a certified accountant. I'm not seeking publicity. I simply want to correct the record. I attached Bernard's report to each email. Then I waited. The first response came within 2 hours. The podcast host, apologetic and professional. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. I did not independently verify the funding claims made during the interview. I'll be issuing a correction. By the end of the day, 3 more responses, all similar in tone. They wanted to talk to me, to interview me, to get my side of the story. I said yes to all of them. The first interview was scheduled for 3 days later with the same magazine that had featured Monica and Ryan originally. The reporter, a young woman named Sarah, met me at a coffee shop. She had Bernard's report on her laptop and a recorder on the table between us. Mrs. Chen, I have to admit, when I first got your email, I was skeptical, but I've reviewed the documentation your accountant provided, and it's extremely thorough. Can you walk me through what happened? So I did. I told her everything. The original gift, the quarterly reports that stopped coming, the media coverage that erased me, the anniversary party speech, the lies. I kept my tone calm and factual, letting the documentation speak for itself. Sarah took notes, asking clarifying questions. And to be clear, you're not asking for the money back. You're not trying to claim ownership of the business. No, the money was a gift, and I stand by that. But a gift shouldn't require me to be erased from history. I funded this business because I believed in my daughter, and they've spent 3 years lying about where that funding came from. Do you feel betrayed by your daughter? The question made my throat tight. Yes, I said quietly. Yes, I do. The article came out a week later. It was fair, balanced, and devastating. Sarah had contacted Monica and Ryan for comment. They'd refused to respond. She'd included excerpts from Bernard's report, quotes from our interview, and screenshots of the public statements Ryan had made about liquidating his savings. The headline read, "Luminescence Beauty, the truth behind the success story." The response was immediate and intense. The article was shared thousands of times on social media. People were outraged on my behalf. Comments flooded in, calling Ryan a liar and Monica ungrateful. Some people defended them, saying I shouldn't have gone public with a family matter. But the majority were on my side, particularly other mothers and grandmothers who saw themselves in my story. Monica called me 2 hours after the article dropped. How could you? How could you do this to me? I told you what would happen if you didn't tell the truth. You chose not to believe me. You've destroyed everything. Our reputation, our brand, our relationships with investors and retailers. You've destroyed it all. I've told the truth. That's all. If the truth destroys your reputation, maybe your reputation was built on lies. I hate you. Do you understand me? I hate you for this. Crying. Her voice broke, and I heard her sobbing. You were supposed to be my mother. You were supposed to support me, not sabotage me. Tearfully, I was supporting you. I gave you everything, and you thanked me by erasing me and lying to the world. I'm sorry you're hurt, Monica, but you did this to yourself. She hung up on me. That was 3 months ago. We haven't spoken since. The fallout continued for weeks. More media outlets picked up the story. I did 2 more interviews, both times presenting the same calm, factual account.
I never badmouthed Monica or Ryan personally. I just presented the documentation and let people draw their own conclusions. Luminescence Beauty released a statement. The Martinez family acknowledges that there were multiple sources of funding for Luminescence Beauty in its early stages, including a generous gift from family members. Previous statements that may have implied otherwise were unintentional simplifications. We regret any confusion. It was the barest possible acknowledgement, carefully worded to avoid admitting deliberate lies. But it was something. Ryan and Monica's image took a hit, though their business survived. Sales dipped briefly but recovered. They moved forward, just without the shiny, self-made narrative they'd worked so hard to craft. As for me, I moved forward too. I started going to a support group for people dealing with family estrangement. I reconnected with old friends I'd been neglecting. I traveled, something David and I had always planned to do but never got around to. I spent time with my rental properties, remembering the work David and I had done together to build our life. People ask me if I regret what I did, if I wish I'd stayed silent to preserve my relationship with my daughter. The truth is, I regret that it came to this. I regret that Monica chose lies over integrity, image over honesty. I regret that my daughter became someone I don't recognize, someone who could take my love and generosity and repay it with erasure and contempt. But do I regret telling the truth? No, not for a second. I spent too many years making myself small, swallowing my hurt, accepting crumbs of respect from people who should have given me the world. My daughter taught me a painful lesson. Sometimes the people you love most will hurt you the deepest. And when that happens, you have a choice. Stay silent and let them continue, or speak up and face the consequences.
I chose to speak up. I chose my own dignity over false peace. I chose truth over comfort. It cost me my relationship with my daughter, at least for now. Maybe forever. That loss is a physical pain that wakes me up at night, that hits me at random moments during the day. I see mothers and daughters together and feel like I've been stabbed. I think about grandchildren I might never meet, holidays I'll spend alone, milestones I won't be part of. But I also look at myself in the mirror and recognize the woman I see. I see strength. I see someone who wouldn't accept being erased. I see someone who stood up for herself even when it was terrifying and painful. That's worth something too. Maybe someday Monica will understand. Maybe someday she'll realize that I didn't sabotage her success. I just refused to let her success be built on lies. Maybe someday she'll call me and we'll talk honestly for the first time in years and we'll find a way back to each other. Or maybe not. Maybe this is how our story ends, with a daughter who chose her image over her mother and a mother who chose her dignity over her daughter's approval. I hope it's not the end. But if it is, I'll survive it. I've survived worse. My name is Margaret Chen. I'm 63 years old. I gave my daughter $200,000 to start her business. When that business became successful, she and her husband lied about where the money came from. And when I asked them to tell the truth, they cut me out of their lives. So I told the truth myself. And I'd do it again. If you've read this far, if my story resonated with you, I hope you'll share your own experiences in the comments. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted? Have you ever had to choose between peace and principles? I'd love to hear your stories. And if you're struggling with something similar, remember that you deserve to be treated with dignity and respect, even by the people you love most, especially by the people you love most. Thank you for listening to my story.